What's up, Twitch and YouTube? It's Murphy55 coming to you with another episode of Around the Gjallarhorn, and today we've got my guy DATRUTHYADIG in the hot seat, ready to answer any and all questions that we can come up for him here. He's a rising star, on multiple platforms. He's got over 15,000 followers on TikTok and growing, over 2,000 followers on YouTube, and he's approaching that 5K mark. Did you hit 5K already, DATRUTHYADIG, on Twitch, or are you on your way to that?
Nah, I think I'm like at 4,800, so hopefully we'll have that by the weekend, no?
Sheesh, but you know what? I think over Zero Chill, you were just going crazy, man. The streams were absolutely blowing up. Like, every time I came into your chat, I was seeing 200, 250 people in there. Like, the momentum is crazy, what you have going on with your community over there, man. It's been a pleasure to kind of be a fan of the channel and watch you grow and do your thing. But, today we're, the whole idea of this podcast series, this is episode number 36. It's crazy to think that I've done 36 of these interviews. Like, it doesn't seem like it's been that long, really. October of last year we started doing it, and we took a little bit of a break. I think the last person we had on here was Spamming Buttons right before he went like 20-0 in LCQ. So there seems to be a trend here. Whoever comes on this podcast goes on a ridiculous winning streak in Madden and becomes one of the best players in the world. So that you might be qualifying for the next MCS event is all I'm saying. I don't know, but
maybe if the menus are involved in it potentially.
If we had like a menu Olympics or something, I think you, Joe Broon, would be right up there at the top, on that podium. But man, to get right into it here, first of all, thank you for taking the time to do this. I know you got a busy schedule. You're constantly pushing out content. Like, you're all over my For You page on TikTok. Like, every time I go on there, I'm seeing a whole bunch of new videos posted. I've been seeing you putting out YouTube stuff as well, and just dominating, from a market perspective. But the first thing I wanted to ask, so you were born, I think, in Kansas City, Missouri, or that's where you were from before you went to your new location, which is Australia, the land down under. So how does one find themselves, migrating to Australia? Was it work related, the decision to get there in the first place, or?
All right, so born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri, home of the Chiefs. As y'all can see behind me, you see the Champ Bailey jersey. I'm a Broncos fan. We'll probably get into that story, nevertheless, so obviously my story kind of starts born in Kansas City. At 16, my mom actually passed away from cancer. So when my mom passed away from cancer, I actually moved to South Dakota with my aunt and uncle who were at the military at that time. And then obviously I grew up there from 16 and on, and I ended up going to college there, playing sports and all that different stuff. And I know my wife is watching, so, and I told her I would actually say this.
I saw the follow, yeah.
Yeah, so I actually moved. She thinks it's because of her that I moved to Australia, but I tell her all the time, it's one, I don't have to deal with snow. That's the main thing. You understand that being in Canada, right? I don't have to deal with snow. Yeah. Two, when I'm not at work, I don't have to wear pants. I can wear shorts 24/7.
Nice.
But really, it was my wife. As they say, when a man does something a little bit outrageous and silly, it's usually behind a woman. So I moved here. We met online, which is crazy to think about, in 2010. Yeah. 2009 December, 2010 January, and then I came out here. I think like 8 months later in August, and then we were back and forth for a long time until I graduated from college in 2013, and then I moved out here fully in 2014 August.
Wow, so that's it's a big change, and to follow that woman that you knew was special and create a life out there, and you've obviously been there for a long time now. It's funny. Does it feel like you guys have been together that long? Because that's when I got together with my wife as well, 2010, right in January, like around that turn of the year. So it's crazy, man. The years go by real quick when you find yourself with the right person, But
exactly, and like obviously we know you have a baby girl on the way. Me having two kids later that are 5 and 7. It feels like we've been that long, but we can't really imagine. And I'm sure this will happen once you have your baby girl, your life before the kids. Yeah. So my son's 7, my daughter's 5. So we've been together. It'll be approaching 13 years this year. And it doesn't feel like we've been together 13. We actually say this all the time. We can't believe, we met when we're 21 and we're both going on 34 this year. So it's crazy. Life comes at you whether you wanted to or not. So
nice, man. It's incredible to first of all, have kind of those parallel experiences, but also, I'm 34, so I can tell you 34 is a very good year. You're going to enjoy it. It's nice to have one of my peers on here. Normally, when I'm reaching out in the Madden community, you get like, I think The first person I ever had, episode 1 of Around the Gjallarhorn, was like, I think a 17-year-old Goat Geezy might have been on there. So, I mean, it's nice to have somebody, with maybe some shared life experience on here, and, excited for that for sure. But, Madden it's kind of interesting because, like, as a community, it seems to be kind of, like, I don't know, my stream is, like, definitely in that 20 to, like, 35, 40 range, but there's also like a lot of the young demons, like a lot of the guys we see competing today in the MCS are significantly younger than that. It seems like it's kind of a young man's game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but one thing I wanted to ask, so you mentioned that you're a Broncos fan, but from Kansas City, Missouri. So why not the Chiefs? I mean, you're kind of missing out on a golden age of the Chiefs right now with Patrick Mahomes being at the helm for the next 10 years probably.
All right, let's talk about this for a second. So I was born in 1989. Which, you were born in 88?
88, that's right.
88? So, I was born in 89. When I was growing up, let's be honest, the Chiefs sucks. We had a washed-up Joe Montana. They weren't doing anything. Growing up, my favorite colors were the colors you see behind me, orange and blue. So, obviously, my whole family is Chiefs fan. I wanted to be opposite, and I knew at that time the Broncos were their biggest rival. So, I chose the Broncos because they were orange and blue, and also to kind of be a rebel, to my family. Luckily for me, they ended up winning, 2 of the next 3 Super Bowls in that time frame. So, I've been with them ever since. And unfortunately, now it's coming of the age where it's kind of, turning this ugly head on me that the Chiefs are actually dominating me. So, I get it at all angles. From family, I think they beat us 15 games straight, which I never hear the end of that. Not only from my family, but from my guy Joe Bruin, who's a big Chief fan too. Joe.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's not a very complex story. It's actually a pretty simple story. Favorite colors are orange and blue, but I decided to stick with them. So I've been there fan for 25, 27 plus years. So can't abandon ship, even though the Chiefs are the cream of the crop right now. I refuse. I will not go back to them.
Definitely. So. I remember, I have fond memories of the Chiefs back in the day. Like you were saying, that they did have some bad teams. I remember they had Priest Holmes over there, was like exciting when he broke the single season touchdown record. I remember I always liked Dick Vermeil, like for some reason as a head coach. I don't know, I was always drawn towards him. I don't know if the record spoke for itself, but I know he wasn't afraid to show emotion. I swear to God, every interview I saw with Dick Vermeil, he's crying, he's doing something, but I kind of liked, I don't know, I found something kind of endearing about it. But you're right, like John Elway kind of had one of the best curtain calls that you could ask for with like back-to-back Super Bowls to end it. And who knows what his legacy would have been if he didn't win if he'd retired, before that run. Who knows if he'd be sitting in the Hall of Fame where he is. He kind of needed to cement that legacy with those 2 Super Bowl wins.
He would be another Dan Marino, a person who couldn't win the game. Obviously he carried the Broncos franchise for so long, and then towards the end of the career, it was kind of fitting that they actually carried him. Rod Smith, Ed McCaffrey, and Sharp, Terrell Davis, if we're talking about the offense, and not the defense. Neil Smith coming over from the Chiefs, big Alfred Williams, Steve Atwater, and all those boys who essentially, carried him to beat Green Bay, and then they absolutely demolished the Falcons too. So, fitting way for, the Broncos to kind of send John Elway out, kind of on top. Like I said, I don't think I've had a better or heard of a better curtain call for an all-time great across any sports to walk out back to back, and just ride off into the sunset.
Absolutely, man. It takes some guts too. After the first one, I'm sure a lot of people probably expected him to retire after that first one, and then to come back, run it back. Pretty cool story for sure. Transport yourself forward like 20 plus years to where we are now. The Broncos kind of, decided to go all in. Trade Noah Fant, a promising young tight end, and a bunch of first round picks and a lot of draft capital to get Russell Wilson, who I think they thought would be the guy. They got a solid defense. From what I understand down there in Denver, they got a great secondary, a lot of young talent, and even a young, talented receiving core as well. It kind of seemed like it would be a match made in heaven, a perfect fit. What do you think has gone wrong with the Broncos experiment so far this season? Because it's definitely been a letdown, like whatever way you slice it.
Right. So, like, first off, I don't know if you remember Les Snead last year when the Rams won the Super Bowl. Do you remember that shirt he had?
Yeah.
It said F those.
Yeah.
I'm that mindset. F those picks at the same time, right?
Yeah.
But I do believe what's went wrong in Denver, if I had to give my diagnosis, one, the team hasn't been healthy. The Broncos lead the NFL with players on IR, now adding 2 with 23. That's unacceptable. And as of, I think it was week 14, this had never happened in the NFL. The Broncos were the only team in the NFL. During week 14, they only had 1 opening day starter on their offense from week 1.
Wow.
So at week 14, there was only 1 person, which at that time was Jerry Jeudy, who had started week 1. All other 11 starters had been changed. So, look, are there games they could have won and should have won? Absolutely. We should have beat the Colts on Thursday night. That was an embarrassment. I think we should have beat the Raiders. We shouldn't even beat the Seahawks. But I think it was a combination of things. Obviously, Hackett was not the guy, and his system didn't quite mesh with Russ, right? But at the same time, with Russ, I think he has been a little timid in trying to ingratiate himself to the Broncos fan. And that, obviously, we know how Russ is and type of a guy, right? But I actually do believe Russ still can be effective in Denver if we can get a healthy offensive line, if we can get the healthy, and obviously all these are big ifs, right? But and everyone want to throw Russ under the bus, and as a Broncos fan, I kind of try to see things 2020, right? Obviously, we kind of brought it on ourselves with the let Russ cook and all the media hype leading up.
Let's ride.
Let's ride, exactly. So, but I'm being honest with you, Murph. I didn't expect to go to Super Bowl this year. It's obviously a lot of people expected it because Tom Brady did it in his first year. Matthew Stafford did it in his first year. But the difference between those two, each one of those quarterbacks were going into an established head coaching tree. Russ was going into Nathaniel Hackett, who was a rookie. And obviously, let's be honest, most of his accolades comes from Aaron Rodgers, having another all-time great head coach. So there was really questions if Hackett could even hack it, no pun intended. But Brady went into Arians, Matthew Stafford went into Sean McVay. Two of the greatest offensive minds in NFL history, right? So I was never of the mind we were going to come in and blow the doors off. I expected us to be better. I actually expected us to be like 11-6. That was mine. In with the wild card. Obviously, we're going to finish way worse than that. Send Seattle a pick. But just to piggyback off that point, a lot of people ask me coming to my chat because they know I'm a Broncos fan. Who do you think won the trade? I still to this day say Broncos, and the reason why is because we don't know what Seattle does with those picks. Seattle is notorious for drafting terrible in the first round. Notorious. They find great late round success. Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor this year, Tariq Woolen. They found great late round success, but their first round picks have been questionable at Bruce Irvin, Rashard Penny, all those guys where they haven't been lived up to that threshold. So right now, obviously, Russ is not cooking. He's burning down the kitchen, but I still believe the Broncos have what it takes to turn it around because it could be as simple as, remaining healthy. It's hard to come into a new situation and not have continuity, right? Because that's the biggest thing you want when going into a new situation. Even though when Matthew Stafford went to, Sean McVay and the Rams, he had continuity there with Sean McVay. Same thing with Tom Brady going to Bruce Arians. You're going from Nathaniel Hackett, who is mostly a gun head coach, and it's with Rodgers, where Russ thrives under center. So you had to mesh that. So it's just a matter of finding the right pieces. Obviously, look, us as Broncos fans, we're stuck with Russ. We're not cutting him. And that's one thing I wish they wouldn't have done. I wish they would have let him play first before giving him the money.
That's what I was going to ask next.
I knew the extension would come because you don't trade that type of capital and not sign the quarterback, but see him first. Right? They picked Russ based off of Seattle Russ. But then this type of season happened, and obviously you stuck with him. But I still believe in Russ. I'm still going to rock with him. I don't think he can be a top 5 quarterback. I think he can be a top 15. But if we have that defense and everything around him, he doesn't need to be top 10. Top 5. He can be top 15, top 10, and still get us to the promised land.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was going to ask you about too. Is giving him, I think it was a 4-year extension maybe before the start of the season. I do get that. Like, you see it in the NBA a lot. Like, a lot of these, pretty much everything works with sign and trades in the NBA right now. And if you're going to make a deal, you want to make sure you can lock that guy up long term if it's an expiring contract. Rogue Eternal, appreciate the follow, man. But I think it's good to have that optimism. I think, Russ has a long track record. Like you said, it's not even necessarily just the system that he's stepping into, but it's like you have a new training staff around you. You're in a new living situation. He had that comfort zone in Seattle where he spent his whole, post-collegiate career there. And obviously had a close relationship with Pete Carroll as well. So it's like, some of those bonds had to be broken, give him a chance to adjust. And I'm sure, you're in a tough division too. Like I remember the AFC West is kind of crazy. Like we saw, I'm actually surprised that a couple teams in the AFC West really didn't. The Chargers made the playoffs, but again, didn't kind of take that huge leap forward that a lot of people thought they would. Yeah. The Chiefs are probably the only team who maybe lived up to expectations, still being probably the best team in the AFC, maybe between them and the Bills right now. And then, the Raiders also added a whole bunch of talent as well. Like I was just thinking, I was like, I could see all 4 teams. I was thinking I could see all 3 wild cards come out of that division, and it looks like only one of them is going to come out of that division in the end. But I will say I do like your future a little bit better than the Raiders' future because they have that uncertainty at quarterback going forward.
Devontae Adams too, because if Carr is there, Adams is out, because that's the only reason he went there. So
that's right. It's an interesting situation, man. The NFL offseason is always like such a crazy thing. Like for me, it was crazy. First of all, that Aaron Rodgers re-signed and then they got rid of his number one target. I was like, all I had heard about Rodgers was how unhappy he was that they weren't putting weapons around him. He signs his deal and then they proceed to get rid of Valdez-Scantling. They get rid of every single weapon that he had. But that's the NFL. It's cutthroat business. Players that are all-stars or all-pros get cut every year because of salary reasons. But again, we'll have to wait and see, run it back next year. And at least your franchise has. You've seen 3 Broncos Super Bowls in your life. You saw the Peyton Manning one.
Three. Yeah. I'm 3-1 in my lifetime. And it's funny when people come in my chat and start talking, and I'm like, "How old are you?" And they tell me, I was like, "Unless you're the Patriots, you can't talk Super Bowls with me." Yeah. I was like, because in the last 30 years, no team besides the Patriots has more Super Bowls than the Broncos. Yeah, we're down now. Every team besides the Patriots in the last 30 years has had down years. So we'll bounce back.
Sure.
I'm we're going to bounce back. It's just going to got to trust the process. And I guess that comes, if I was 21, 20, 22, I would be off the wall. Man, but I've seen a lot of football, played a lot of football, understand the business. Like, you got to trust the process.
Yeah.
No pun intended, the copy and bead slogan, but you got to trust the process with it, and just see where it comes out with. And trust, more importantly, we got the richest owner in sports. We got that Walmart money, so you got to trust that Walmart money.
Oh, definitely. It's not our money. One thing I never understand is people getting upset about contracts. If you're under the cap, if you got a competitive team, especially in sports like baseball where there's no salary cap, I'm like, it's not my money. I don't care if the best player on my team is getting paid $50 million a year. Like, I want to have the best players in place. Let Walmart's done well for themselves. Let them spend a little bit and give back a little bit. But you mentioned that you played football as well. So was that during your time in South Dakota? Was that where you would have played most of your football?
Yeah. So I played in Missouri too. So I left Missouri in my end of junior year. And I played. I was actually like a move tight end. I was an undersized tight end, but it was only because I was needed to play the position. I was more a receiver and corner. And then obviously when I went to South Dakota, that's where I ended up playing receiver and corner in high school and a little bit collegiately as well.
Yeah, incredible. And what college did you play at, if you don't mind me asking?
Shout out Black Hills State University, home of the Yellow Jackets. Didn't play long because I seen my future. It got to the point where, and we all get this as athletes, where you love the game but you're not in love with the game.
Yeah, for sure.
I still love football to this day, and when I stopped playing, obviously I wanted to play flag football, but I wasn't in love with it. But at that point, that's when I told you the other day, when I decided I still love the game, so I want to talk about it. So that's why I was like, I got to go, do my journalism broadcasting degree, so that way I can still talk the game, even though I'm not playing the game at that anymore.
Absolutely, man. It's crazy. Like I played high school football, and again, I was playing 3-down football, Canadian rules football. It's a little bit different. Have you ever witnessed any CFL action in your lifetime? Did you ever see it? Like, yeah, it's a different game.
Toronto
Argonauts.
Wasn't T.O. playing for them, if I remember?
You know what? We've had a few NFL guys. We had Andre Rison played like in his 40s, I swear, for the Argos. We had Ricky Williams played for us, the famous Texas running back. Who else we had? We had, we've had, who was it? There was the old Jets quarterback was like not Robbie
Vinny Testaverde?
No, not him. It was he was a backup for the Jets. I think he played one season as a starter, and he was like he was like the best player in the CFL for like 5 years. Some backup. I can't remember. Ricky Ray? Is that his name? Ricky Ray. He's like a footnote in NFL history, but it's funny. Like the CFL does have a lot of names that come in late. I remember there was talk of Ocho Cinco. I think Ocho Cinco might have even played for the Montreal Alouettes at one point too, like after his NFL career. Yeah. And Ocho was one of those guys who I always thought really did have a love for the game. Like I think financially he must have been set, after his time in the NFL. But like some guys just want to continue and try something new. Fun fact. The all-time professional sports passing leader is actually a Toronto Argonaut because the Football Hall of Fame has people from not just the NFL but also the CFL there too, and the record is held by Damon Allen. Marcus Allen's brother was actually a quarterback in the CFL for decades. Played well into his 40s, man. Like it's kind of crazy. Like, but personally, I would not recommend CFL football to anybody. It's kind of wild to have like 2 chances and you got to punt the ball. Like it's kind of crazy. Like it's much more pass friendly. We got an extra 10 yards on the field in the middle. The end zones are, I believe, 20 yards deep instead of 10, so you have a huge space in the end zone. And the goalpost is at the front of the end zone. So literally, that's the stupid. I have no idea why they do that, because literally it can affect plays. And if you punt the ball out the back of the end zone and they don't get it out of the end zone, that's 1 point. It's called a rouge. So that's another thing that's a joke. If you miss a field goal, if you miss a field goal and it goes out the back of the end zone and nobody returns it, then that's a point. So it's kind of wild. It's kind of a joke. But I was just thinking, you mentioned kind of, as you get older and you really have to have your heart in it. The Toronto Argonauts won the Grey Cup this year, which is our, championship. And one of my old high school teammates won the MVP award this year. He played for the Colts for a couple years. His name was Enoch Muwamba. And I just remember thinking, man, he's 34 years old as well. I'm like, I can't imagine playing sports at a high level into my 30s. So, when you see these NFL guys, around the same age as us still playing, it's not easy. Like it takes a lot of like religious dedication to maintaining your body and maintaining your health. And, these football players put a lot on the line, a lot of long-term health consequences can come from playing such a hard-nosed kind of violent game. And, obviously we saw this week too with, the situation in Buffalo. Like it just makes you realize,
right,
how much you really are putting on the line to put those pads on. So hopefully, what I've heard, it sounds like there's been a good recovery happening over there. It sounds like, luckily, he got the best medical attention, but thank God that whole situation is seeming to kind of come out with a positive ending.
Which I would like to, if I could, give a shout out to that medical staff. Like, I don't think they've gotten credit for what they've done, and I don't think people realize what they've done in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
And I have good friends who are paramedics and things of that nature, not only to act so quickly, but also to know what has happened and know the proper results that they need to apply to get him. Because, I mean, we all know what happened. We all seen it on the field. They had to do cardiac, basically CPR, cardiac arrest. And to have that quick, fast thinking on the field, they saved that young man's life.
Yeah. And
obviously, he would be thankful for it. But those people, I do believe, should get more credit. And obviously, people want to say, the NFL for, postponing the game and all that. Those are great. But those medical professionals, I think, are the real heroes of the situation. Sure. And they're not getting enough credit for what they actually done in that split-second moment. Because I would talk about this a lot. And everyone say, life or death situation. That was a life or death situation in front of thousands of people.
The thousands of people.
Yeah. Stakes are so high at that point in time. So fantastic job. Absolute fantastic job.
Yeah, shout out to the medical staff, man. And some of the most chronically underpaid people in the world are probably paramedics, considering how much trauma they have to go through on a daily basis and how many, high intensity situations. But at least in Canada, I know, we talk about teachers being underpaid. We talk about all these other professions, but really paramedics, I think, are some of those people that they just don't seem to be valued as highly as the service that they provide for the community. So, hopefully everything continues well along that line. And but it is always one of those things that you got to have in the back of your head. I know I read a quote from Patrick Peterson on the Vikings, and, he said his kids were watching the game when it was on, and he brought his kids upstairs because, even for the families of these NFL players, they always know that, I think a lot of people go into watching their family members that play in the NFL, like, they're worried each game because they know there's a chance at glory and achieving, legendary status, but they also know that you could get hurt and nobody wants to see their loved ones get hurt for sure. But at the same time, I love the NFL. I love the physicality of it too. And having, the National Flag Football League would not be nearly as interesting, and they've taken steps to protect players, but at the end of the day, no matter how many steps are taken, there's always going to be that chance when you get two athletic, strong people running full speed and colliding with each other that something could go wrong.
Right.
But, one thing I wanted to ask, still going into your origin here before we get into the content creation journey, moving from America to Australia, was there any initial, culture shock? Is there anything that kind of struck you right off the bat? Like, this is really, really different than what I've grown up with?
Yeah. So the very first thing of me getting off the plane, we go to a restaurant and I ask for a lemonade. Now, I don't know how it is in Canada, but when I say lemonade, I expect lemon, country time, that type of lemon. They bring me a Sprite,
really?
Because that's what a lemonade is in Australia. It's 7-Up. Right. Yeah. Yes, that's lemonade. So that was the very first culture shock, right?
Yeah.
And secondly, just how beautiful of a place it is. Obviously, we read about it, and most people, when they think of Australia, you think kangaroos are just hopping around. Let's just keep it on what people think, right?
Yeah,
and it's not actually like that. And another myth I want to debunk, now that I have the stage.
Yes.
A lot of people talk about the creatures in Australia. It's not that bad, people.
I was going to say, man, that's what I was going to ask you about. The spiders, the scorpions.
The spiders, the scorpions, the snakes. It's not that. Do we have them? Yeah, they're there. But it's not like the ones you see where it's taking up the entire wall of someone's house or something. No. Not there. I've seen just as big as spiders in America as I've seen here. So, but overall, man, I love it here. People always ask me all the time, would I potentially go back to America? I'm like, probably to visit. But in terms of like walks of life, especially for someone who has kids now, and the opportunities Australia gives kids and families, like I'm here for the long haul. Obviously, once they get older, things of that nature, you know, me and the wife may decide in terms of visiting other places or living elsewhere. But it's just, man, I love this country. And I actually, it's funny, I had this discussion with one of my boys the other day because we were just talking. He was like, America's the greatest country. I was like, actually, if you travel around the world, and this is just me being completely honest, America's in top 5 in terms of greatest countries in the world, because that's obviously the American dream, right? This is not bad for America because I still love it, but when you get older and you start having kids and you start having responsibilities, you realize other countries does more for those type of people than what America can do, which is unfortunate because America does have the resources to do these certain things. They just don't do them. Where I can go on a list of, you know, a plethora of things that Australia does that I was just like, wow, just crazy. So I love it here. But obviously it's crazy. I still get a culture shock dang near every day, especially when I go out or I open up my mouth. I literally today, before we did this, took the kids to, me and the wife took the kids for a scoot ride. We scooted down to the park and then played, and then I went and got us donuts. And I was talking to the lady, and obviously always, yes ma'am, no sir. That's how I was raised. People don't understand it here. But then the guy said it immediately. Oh, where are you from? I was like, Missouri. He was like, oh, we had someone from Texas here, and I just knew as soon as you said yes sir, yes ma'am, that's where you're from. But then that's a culture shock too, because here some people find that offensive. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, look, I moved here when I was 25. I have 25 years ingrained in me of saying that. Me being here 8 years, it's not going to go away. Sorry. Not only that, but I'm also raised in a military family as well. So sorry, it's not going to go away. So that's one thing that I got to I work on, and I do it consciously now. Sometimes unconsciously, if someone calls my name, you know, hey Dre, I say yes sir, or, you know, yes ma'am, or whatever it may be. But if it offends someone, sometimes I consciously have to think about it, not to say it.
For sure, that is a big thing that with military families. I've heard the discipline and kind of the respect, and you know, it's funny. You probably noticed, like, I'd say the one thing in Canada that might be a culture shock is just people constantly apologizing. You could walk into somebody, you're completely at fault, and somebody's gonna be apologizing for making contact with you. It's kind of the going rite of passage. I didn't even realize that Canadians had an accent until I came on Twitch, and everybody was like instantly pegging me for being Canadian. I think if anything, it's more similar to like a Minnesota, like North Dakota type accent. You know, I feel like a lot of people go that way. Minnesota, you know, it's. I feel like, you know, it kind of works that I'm a Vikings fan. People just assume that I'm from Minnesota the way that I talk. But man, I've had a lot of Canadians. Like I'm in the teaching profession myself, and a lot of Canadians go out to Australia for teachers college. I don't know why, if it's just more affordable out there or whatever. But I think even Up and Adam Gaming actually went out there and lived at least a year in Australia. When he was doing his teacher's college too. So definitely somewhere I'd love to visit. It's one of the potential honeymoon destinations we looked at, but it was it's an expensive flight to get out there. You know, we ended up settling for Hawaii, which I'm very glad we did. I had a blast out there, but would love to cross that off my bucket list at some point and come down under. I
love all the Vertex members to come down. That'd be dope. And obviously you can pick up Spree along the way in New Zealand.
Absolutely, Spree's down in across the way. I guess he's part of Oceania. Is Australia technically is Oceania a continent, or am I making this up? I feel like I've heard that Australia and Oceania is like a continent in its own right, with all the little islands around it.
So the continent is Australia, but Oceania is like the area. So like New Zealand, Australia, a little bit above us. That's the Oceania. I don't know I think it's Asia Pacific that's above us. Then Oceania is like our specific region, if I'm not mistaken.
And another question too, like your kids are school age now as well. Like, are the maps out there the same maps that you grew up looking at, with North America on the left side, Europe and Asia on the, because I've seen, you know, some places in the world, like depending on how remote you are, the maps look totally different. Like, you know, it'll be more centric on the country you live in. Are the maps out there the same as what we have here?
Now, I actually haven't seen a map like cartographic map. I think globes, and the globes are the same.
Globes are the same. Yeah,
I would assume that maps would be the same. Where Australia would be down at the bottom right. Yeah. Obviously, America and Canada will be in your left. You know, South America, Africa, Europe, and Asia. But that's actually a good question. That's actually a real interesting question. The only thing I know 100% that different is that the toilet bowl swirls the different way.
That's right.
I thought it was a myth. I thought it was a myth until I moved here. And I was like, that's actually true. It does swirl the other way, which is crazy. Small stuff like that.
Yeah. You know, that's funny because I was actually, my wife, when she was a kid, her parents wouldn't let her watch The Simpsons. Apparently, The Simpsons was like too naughty of a TV show. She's the same age as me. And, you know, we were watching, we started watching on Disney Plus. We were watching some old Simpsons episodes. And last week we watched one where Bart like defrauds somebody for like a phone call in Australia, and they go down there and it was all about the toilet bowls going the opposite way. And you know, I didn't realize that. You learn something from watching cartoons. Apparently anywhere south of the equator, I guess that's the case. I mean, it's crazy, man. It kind of makes you realize, like, you know, I can't believe that people used to think that the earth was flat. Like, we've learned so much over the years, man. The world's an amazing thing. But Australia is probably about as far as you can get. I think it's a 16-hour time difference for us, right? Like what time is it where you are right now?
It's 11:47 for me, which means I got the time figured out. It's 7:47 in the East Coast.
That's right.
6:47 in Central, 5:47 in Mountain, and 4:47 on the West Coast. So I got it all figured out myself until March when daylight saving times hit us again, and then obviously I got to reconfigure my brain again.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it's funny. Like I've only got down East and West Coast time. I'm very like North America centric. I know that the West Coast is always 3 hours, you know, behind us. But you know, even if you go like somebody from Nova Scotia or the East Coast of Canada, my guy Deekster, I never know what time it is there. I know it's probably only like an hour ahead of us, but I just my brain cannot hold that many numbers at once. So that's why we have Google. That's why we have you know these tools to figure it out. I know though it was an issue when we were trying to figure it out. Like whenever I would say, January 6th, I had to remember that in your head, January 6th is already come and gone. You're on January 7th right now.
Come and gone, and it's crazy for me because obviously having birthdays and all that different stuff in terms of dates, right? Calling family back home, working out time, even working out content. Like it's such a time constraint because obviously I live literally in a different country, but my content's mostly based off American time and getting out in American time to people to view it, whether it's Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, or whatever it is. So it's crazy. It's not something I ever thought that would take place, but here we are.
Yeah, and you seem to have figured it out well in a way that's working to grow you on all those platforms. And you know, we will get into that soon. The next thing I wanted to get into, so we're starting to move from the origin story into, you know, your journey as a content creator here. And you know, most people who are on Twitch, they've had some sort of relationship with video games their whole life. Do you remember what your first console that you had, like in your house, like either growing up or... Yeah, what was your first console?
Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo.
Nice. And what were the first games that really like kind of spoke to you? The games that you would be a demon at, or the games that you played all the time growing up?
Double Dragon.
Nice.
Sonic, and this was on Sega. Yeah. Then I had Tecmo Bowl. Tecmo Bowl was probably the first football game most people played. I loved Street Fighter on Super Nintendo. I don't know if you remember that Street Fighter.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Super Mario. Love Super Mario, still play it to this day. And then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan, and most people don't know this about me, but because obviously they see me, they know I play football, I play the game, but like I'm a huge nerd.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't have a problem telling people that, right? But most people will never guess that about me. But like when it comes to video games, like I can show you literally right here. I have Pokemon Violet literally sitting on, and me and Finler. Shout out to Finler. Everyone knows Finler. Me and him was talking about that. But man, I'm a huge nerd. Whether it's Harry Potter, books, whatever it may be, I just love it all. But obviously, I was blessed enough from the man above to be able to be an athlete and have some athletic ability. Yeah. So obviously, that took the forefront. But man, all that. I try to play everything growing up. Literally play everything and didn't discriminate. But Sega and Super Nintendo, those really kind of set me on my path. Towards video games.
For sure. You know, it's funny. Like, I actually bought a original Nintendo little emulator. Now you go on Amazon, you can find like the little emulators that have every single title, and it looks like just a mini version of it. My wife has a blast. We play Pac-Man on there. We play like all these old games. And then you get the Japanese titles too, which are not even in English, and some of the translation is a little bit off, and it's these random games. There was one basketball game I found where you're like playing at an airplane hangar with just one net, and I was like, well, I don't know what this is, but
that's crazy.
Yeah, man. But you know, I never really had consoles growing up. I was more like, we would have these things called garage sales. I don't know if you had that. I guess it would be what you'd call a yard sale.
Oh
yeah. Do you guys call them garage sales or yard sales in the States?
Garage sales.
Okay, yeah, we would do it like our neighborhood would do it like one day a year in June, and everybody would, you know, fill their driveway with like a bunch of old crap that you wanted to get rid of, and I would go around there. I'd have like, you know, $10, and I'd be like going in and grabbing like a whole bin of video game equipment that somebody's throwing out. So I did play a lot of Sega Genesis, but I played it well after the N64 had already been established as a new console. I never had an N64. My cousins did. I was pretty cracked at like Mario Kart and stuff and GoldenEye and those games, but I would have to wait till Christmas or Easter to play. I was like, I only got to play a couple times a year.
The greatest video game ever invented. No one can tell me different.
GoldenEye, yeah, man. You know, it's funny. My buddy had, who's also, I guess, a self-proclaimed big nerd, who actually had a YouTube channel for a while. He was kind of big into StarCraft. This was before I knew what Twitch was or anything. He was a big StarCraft guy. He actually had like a good YouTube following. He'd hire like actors and models to be in his videos, and now his channel seems to have been taken down. He's got like 4 kids now. He's off the technology grind, but you know, he was his bachelor party. I remember we got together and we did a slappers only match where you just go around and slap each other in GoldenEye, and I had a blast. You know, it's still fun to this day, even though the graphics are like 2D. It's crazy. But
you couldn't, growing up, you couldn't tell me those graphics weren't the greatest things since sliced bread.
It's hilarious how expectations have changed. You know, now people are complaining about the graphics, but honestly, I still am in amazement sometimes, like when I see, you know, especially like the zoomed in footage, you know, like that people will cut for video games or like the replays and stuff. Like it is amazing, like how much the movement's changed. And I think Madden now, the mechanics of it, I think they found a real sweet spot where it's the speed is not ridiculously arcade-like. The movement is natural. We won't talk about animations. I don't want to get anybody upset because I know the animations are always going to be an issue when they don't go our way, but I feel like it feels pretty real. Like I think they've, you know, 21 felt a little bit sluggish and slow. 22, I feel like the actual movement of the players, they're getting close to real life at this point, in my opinion. But you know, the other thing I wanted to ask is, when was your first Madden? Like, what was the first Madden that you ever bought and played?
Probably the first Madden I can remember is Madden, I think it's 2000 with Ray Lewis on the cover. Yeah. 2001 with Eddie George on the cover. That was probably my first 2 huge Maddens that I got into. Probably the first video game in terms of, besides Tecmo Bowl, and I don't know if you remember this on N64, but was Quarterback Club. Quarterback Club with Brett Favre on the cover. Quarterback Club 98 for the 64. That was probably the first real game that I got into where I was doing like where they had seasons and franchise and stuff of that nature. And that kind of just, once Quarterback Club diminished and kind of Madden took over, and Madden 2000, you know, it's history from that point. Been playing it for what, you know, 23, 24 years at that point in time. So
yeah, no, it's funny. Like there's, you know, we're in a world now where for the last few years we haven't had any competition from other sports titles. We used to have like I think it wasn't since 2005, like when we had was it ESPN 2K5
ESPN with T.O. on the cover.
Yeah, and that was a fun game. I remember I had both those games. I think Ray Lewis was again on the cover in 2005. That was when the Hit Stick came out. That was my first Madden that I bought. That was when I bought myself an Xbox, or maybe I got it for Christmas. I probably got it for Christmas, I think. But yeah, you know, it was fun having both those games. Like I felt no issues playing, you know, with Mike Vick in Madden 2005, and then going over and like tapping my thumb on X and like, you know, totally different gameplay. You know. Do you think we'll see a return where there's like a competition for EA in the football video game realm?
I think there needs to be, and I know there are talks with them doing a arcade type video game like NFL Blitz, but any type of game there needs to be, because if there's no competition, and this is not just with EA, this is in life, it doesn't apply pressure on EA to put out the best product, and we both know playing this game, we don't always get the best product, whether it's glitches. We had the Campus Hero glitch yesterday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where people went crazy. Unfortunately, I'm never able to take advantage of glitches because it's always like 2:30 in the morning my time. But there needs to be competition. What that competition looks like, that remains to be seen. But I definitely do think there's need to be competition. But obviously, you know, EA is signed with their right to the NFL. But what gives me hope is that EA, because I believe FIFA is with going to EA next year, right?
That's right. That's right. I heard that. So that was a big, you know, I'm sure it sent shockwaves. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, that gives me hope that maybe potentially the NFL will see them like, hold on, if they can do this, maybe we need, you know, to look at other options to present, you know, a suitable video game or even competition or options that we can have for an NFL product.
That's right. Yeah, having a monopoly has those consequences that come with it, and I think, you know, EA has kind of been framed by a lot of people in the community. Like, you know, I know a lot of people who work with EA who have sponsored stuff, but EA is we always joke about it being kind of like this evil empire. You know, like we take a lot of our hate out on the company, but I mean, it's true, they're not being pushed by any outside factors. You know, there's not that sense of urgency to maybe make sure that every single thing runs as seamlessly as possible. You know, we always talk about EA being a multi-billion-dollar company, but it doesn't seem like stuff like over Christmas break, you know, I get sending employees home, but can you not pay somebody double time and a half? Like, pay your employees a crap load of money. Hire some extra people. Like, their staff should be massive with the amount of money that they're bringing in. And I feel like it's probably an office with 10 people making this entire game. I don't know. Feels like that sometimes. Yeah. But you know, so you got into Madden. You said like around 2000, and you know, when was it that you felt like, you know, Madden was something that you could, you know, make a, you know, a potential second career or potential, you know, like when did you kind of decide to, you know, try to go into the content creation realm and you know, broadcast yourself out there playing it?
Yeah, so look, I've been playing, like I said, Madden's that long. I've been playing MUT. I've been playing MUT back when they had contracts. That could tell you how long I've been playing MUT for. So but once again, shout out to my wife. So my wife actually is the one who pushed me. So I've always played video games. That's been my vice. You know, I don't go out, I don't do anything, especially when you get kids. You want to do some more stuff that's in the home. So she know I always love video games. And look, I've always been semi good at them, whether it's the market or even playing the game. I'm good at. So this was back in, I would say, she's been actually pushing me since, I'll say about 2017. She know I watch the big YouTuber CC, Gut Fox, and all those boys. She's like, why don't you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. You know, I always get up the most excuses in the world, Murph. This, and we got a baby on the way, you know, kids and all that. And then I think back in 2020, the end of the year, I was like, all right, let's do this. So my first stream was actually on my birthday, January 23rd, 2001. And it's funny, I actually wanted to be a 2K streamer first. My first stream was with 2K, where I was playing Wreck with my boys, you know, and things of that nature. I still was playing Madden, but I never thought of becoming a Madden streamer. And then shout out to this guy, Bullet TV, a big NBA streamer. He actually raided me with like 300 people. Wow. 400 people. Starting out, I only had like, I remember this like yesterday, like 25 followers. That raid itself, I got to affiliate just off of that raid alone. And I was like, you know, I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be easy. You know, I'm hitting affiliate in a couple days within streaming. But then from that point, it was a grind. It was an absolute grind. In 2021, it was, do I want to do this? And then I started YouTube in April 2021 with an egg opening. I feel like this would be, because of eggs, we all know eggs, everyone gets excited for that, and it did really well, and things of that nature. And I was like, oh man, do I want to continue to do this? Because it got hard, Murph. Streaming to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people at that point in time, it gets tough. It gets super tough. In 2021 December, November, kind of where it kind of just took off from that point. I essentially got into TikTok. I was so against TikTok, Murph, and we've had this conversation a little bit.
It's not for our generation. It's not designed for us, but it's so good for Madden.
And I was against. I was like, my wife's like, you should get on. I was like, I don't want to do it. Blah, blah, blah. And one of my buddies, shout out to my buddy AJ, he was like, truth, you have all these coins, just post you're gonna do a giveaway, and then it will happen. And he showed me his, and it went crazy. I was like, well, let me try this. Did it. My first video I ever got like 30,000 views, and I ended up giving back to the people. And then I kind of lulled, and this was back in August. It was into 2021. I was like, oh, I'm kind of lolling. And then like in 22, I was very inconsistent, whether it was with YouTube, streaming. And then, like I said, November 2021, I was like, okay, man, if you're going to do this, you got to do shit right. Excuse my language. But if you're going to do it right. So from that point, I just made a conservative effort. It was like, look, we're going to do this. We're going to grind. And then, that's when numbers started picking up. On TikTok, as you know, that's when pro fantasy packs were huge last year. And I was having crazy luck pulling out of pro fantasy, like LTDs, 90, all this different stuff. And like I would post my pools, and like that's what kind of got my traction going. And like they gave me the title Pack King and Pro Fantasy Pack King. And then I just ran with it from that point. I was like, look, we're gonna make this consistent. We're gonna do it. And then at the beginning of 2022, we started off with, and I will never forget these numbers, 300 followers on YouTube. We started 300 followers on Twitch and about 1,300 on TikTok. Those were my numbers, and I set goals. What I was going to do in 2022, and I was like, you got to make it happen. There's no excuse, right? And then obviously, I put out my tweet. We ended 2022 with over 4,800 on Twitch, 3,000 on YouTube, 16,000 on TikTok, and about 700 on Twitter. So we made it happen. So like I said, again, shout out to my wife. She's been my, I like to joke about why I moved to Australia, and but it's obviously because of her, and I do it all for her, as I'm sure with the wife, and obviously we're on the way. Those are my motivations, right? And I tell people all the time, for me, content creation, it's not about money. It's not about any of that. If I do things the right way, the money will come. Success will find me if I do things the right way and just be authentic and just continue to be myself, no matter how much fame I get, how many followers I get. And it's funny, like some of my mods, I have one of my good friends, Lionel. He's been a mod on my channel for 4 years, even before I started really streaming. And then I have mods that I've met along the way, and they always say, you're the same person that was streaming to 2 people. And I was like, that's what I want to be. I don't want to, get 200 and 250 people in here and people think I've changed or switched up. But that's just not who I am. That's not how I was raised. That's not the cloth I was cut from. So, man, it's been an amazing journey. And the beauty about this now, Murph, is that I had, this little success. I'm hungry for more. People get this success and they're like, oh, I'm satisfied. Like, no, I'm actually salivating for like, okay, what can we actually do? What level can we reach? Obviously the level I've reached, I've joined Vertex recently. Shout out to Easy for the invite for that. And like I even came in there, and when Joe, my boy Joe, everyone knows Cook, a year ago around this time, he joined Vertex, and we actually had a conversation, and I was like, man, it would be cool, to join that team. And I was like, I'm just gonna work. I didn't actually have Vertex in my sights. I was like, I'm just gonna put my head down and work, and then like I said, things will find you. Absolutely. Like it's about me, and obviously I have you, Luch, Deal, Joe, Kale, Ferdy, Jock, Easy, all these guys that I can bounce ideas off of and collab with. And man, it's just been an amazing ride. And like I'm extremely, more than anything, I'm extremely thankful because it's not promised that anything is going to come your way. No, if you work hard, you hope that things come your way, right? And that's the mindset that I wanted to, is just work hard, head down. And things came away. But when Joe hit me up with the invite, and I don't know if you've seen the screenshot in our Discord, I was like, bro, are you serious? I was like, don't play with me, Joe. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, bro, it would be an honor. And like, people would think it's cliche, but like, it really would. You know what I mean? Like, because it's not something I expected. And I, as you know, Murph, being 34 in this game, a lot of people say it's not old, but in this game, it's old. Let's just keep it 100, right? It's old in this.
We're the elder statesmen.
It is, but it also gives us an advantage too. Like, and I always tell people that I can relate to 14, 15, 16, 17 who watching my stream, right? Obviously, I'm going to relate to people our age because I have that life experience, but I have kids coming on the stream, who want to speak to me and want to know about my experience and embody, my wisdom on them. Like, look, you're 16. You have so much ahead of you, or you should be doing this and this and things of that nature. So, man, it's been an incredible journey. I'm thankful for everything, and I don't take any single thing that I've gotten or I'm gonna get for granted. But I'm still gonna continue to work. And it is, and that's one thing a lot of people don't realize. For me being over here, and I said this earlier, but working on American schedule, it is work. I'm talking about sleepless nights. Sometimes I do wake up at 3 a.m. for content. I wake up at 6 a.m. to record a video before I get my kids ready, go to work. Because most people don't realize I do have a 9 to 5 job I normally work that I actually love, just like you love your job.
Absolutely.
I love my job that I work with, and even if I did become full-time content creation, I never will go away from my job because I have so much passion about my specific job that I do. But yeah, man, I'm just thankful for everything and every opportunity that I've been given, and I just want to continue to work. At the end of the day, that's what I just want to continue to do. Work, whether it's YouTube, Twitch, TikTok. That's why you see me on your For You page so much.
Yeah, man. No, I love it.
And I'm happy with working, and I'm one of those people. I don't mind working for something if I think that it's worth it in the end, and it gives me satisfaction to do so.
100%, man. And you touched on so many great things there, and some of them that I want to bring up, like you talked about not getting complacent. You get a taste of success, and you go about things the right way, and eventually something clicks. You might get that one big break, that rate of 300 when you have 30 followers, that kind of pushes you over, and then just making sure that you're putting in that right type of work so that when the opportunities do present themselves, you're ready to capitalize on and make the most. And now you've really tapped into something where you are in a position that you're growing on multiple platforms at the same time, and you're not just getting complacent and saying, okay, I hit my goals. This is further than I thought I'd get at the end of 2023. I'm going to just chill now, go on a 6-month vacation, and we'll come back and it's all going to be there. It's a constant thing. It takes a lot of work. And, I think, having a 9-to-5 job too, that's something that a lot of people, it's a mix. In Vertex, there's some guys that are full-time content creation. I think that's incredible. Like the idea that video games can be a full-time revenue source that can support you is crazy. That didn't exist even when we were kids. That was not a thing.
Not 10 years ago. I tell you all the time, if it was 10 years ago, boy, I'd be a billionaire now. 10, 15 years ago, let me tell you.
Oh my God,
playing Madden and playing 2K and all this different stuff.
100%, man. And it's funny, like, in talking, it's one thing that kind of comes up, like with everybody I've had on here. I try to kind of seek out people that have really cool stories, and not necessarily everybody at the same level of success. I've had people that are, like W on who has achieved incredible success. I've had guys that are smaller streamers on as well, but, I can tell that they've got a really interesting, kind of personality or a great way of going about things, and something that's really kind of, tapping into a vein that people are interested in. But everybody, that kind of work ethic and the love of the process is something that almost every one of these 36 guests have had. You can't do this, like, you can't be a phony. You can't be somebody who just does it thinking it's going to be easy money coming in. You can't be a fake person on, to be a fake person and stream 200, 250 days a year, it would be exhausting. You'd be, you got to be kind of genuine and hopefully, your personality is enough to kind of want, draw more people in and want to get to know you. And, it's great to see that, after a couple of years of kind of, grinding that slow grind, that you're finally kind of hitting that, that more linear, like upwards trajectory there, straight to the moon kind of thing. I love it. It's inspiring. And you talked about Vertex too. Like Vertex was a cool thing. Like, I've known Geezy since he was, I swear he might have been 16 when I first met Geezy, and it's kind of crazy to say, like, I'm almost double this guy's age, but like he's a very mature young man, and you think, going to join a stream team that's run by somebody who, is just, getting into college, it seemed, 5 years ago, that would have seemed crazy to me. 5 years ago, I wouldn't even know what a stream team is. But, it's just so cool being in this group, and it's really inspiring, like, to see everybody doing their own thing. It's not like we're like, we do collaborate, we do events together, but it really is a group of individuals who are all working towards their own path, and we support each other in the ways that we can. But at the same time, it's not about carrying dead weight. It's about everybody's going to get out of it what they put into it individually, and that's the main thing with Vertex. Like you're already a success in your own right. So bringing you in is obviously like a no-brainer, man. And I just remember even when we had the initial conversation, it was like it was done. It was it. As soon as your name was brought up, we're like, yeah, absolutely, fits the bill perfectly, and we'd be lucky to have you. So really happy that we get an opportunity to kind of collaborate. And I'm hoping I've had most of the roster of Vertex on here. I think I've still got like Father Jock was on, or not Father Jock. I still have his name, so I got to change his new name to Fake Jock HQ. I got to change that command. I just realized now. But I want to get a couple more of the boys on here. But it's always cool to kind of collaborate with some like-minded and creative people. But as far as goals that you have set going forward, it's New Year's time. It's like we're into 2023. Everybody kind of does that thing. Okay, let's set my goals for the new year. Are there numerical goals that you have set for yourself, on each platform for the coming year?
Yeah. So double everything. That's that. So 10K Twitch. We're talking 30K TikTok. We're talking 6K YouTube. I'm a big believer. I like to shoot for the stars, but if I fail, I'll land on the clouds.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
I love that.
I'm a big believer of putting goals out there because you need something tangible that you visually can see and that is reachable, right? Because if you don't have something that's tangible there for you to see, what are you trying to go for? Not saying if you fall short of that goal, it's a failure. But if the end of the year, I only end up at 9K, on Twitch.
That's a great year on Twitch still. Yeah.
That's still a great year, you know what I mean? But I set my goals for the stars in hopes that I'll land on the clouds. That's a quote that's stuck with me, since I was a teenager, in terms of doing that. So we're trying to double everything. And at the end of the day, I'm going to make sure that I give my best effort to do so on all platforms and continue to bestow my knowledge and bring content, funnies and all that different stuff, everything that I can do to make sure I achieve those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And being another guy with a 9 to 5, I feel like the one thing to achieve all these goals, the one thing that we both probably wish we could have is a longer day. Like 36-hour day would be perfect. Like they're just and you family time, and I'm gonna figure out about that too. Like family time is important. Getting your 9 to 5 in is important. Getting rest and sleep is important. Is sleep the one thing that you kind of have to sacrifice to kind of achieve all the stuff that you want to accomplish?
Yeah, more than anything. Like I said, and my wife knows this. Again, shout out to her. And I want to give a shout out to her more than anything, just because she allowed me to do this. I told her, I was like, look, if I do this, it's going to be 2 years of grinding, which it has been. The last 2 years, it's going to be 2 years of grinding. And after those 2 years, I'm still going to be grinding, but we're going to be at a point where we should be able to, start to see some traction, which has actually came to fruition. Yeah. So big shout out to my wife, for allowing me to do this and to be this individual. Because what people see on stream, she gets it every day. So she's probably annoyed as hell as me, but that's okay. I told her, you're married with me, you can't go anywhere. We have a contract signed, so it's too late. Sleep, man. Sleep is the one thing. It's been a lot of 2, 3, 4 hours sleep, and at 34, man, I can't really do it anymore.
Of course.
I'm being honest. I'm being honest, and obviously, the thing that I had that was great. I didn't have when I started. I didn't have infants, right? Like yourself or Luke, where they had young babies. I didn't have infants, so I didn't have middle of the night feeds or anything of that nature. My kids, when I started, were 2, 3, and then 5. So. That's the beauty about me, but sleep is the one thing, because sometimes, and people don't realize this, and I kind of touched on this earlier, especially during this time of the year, right? Because when this time of the year, content comes out at 2:30 for me, right? So generally, I have to wake up at like 5:30 to record a video, but then my wife's getting up to go to work. So I kind of got to record a video before she goes to work, and then the kids get up, and then I got to do all this thing for them, and then I get them settled, and then I go back and edit that video, and then I start rendering it, and then I go get myself ready, and then before we leave, it's obviously I'll make sure it's up on YouTube, and then I'll click submit, and then obviously off we go. And then sometimes I record the night before, depending on what the content will be, if there's going to be new legends or something dropping in the morning. So this time of the year is really difficult when it comes to let me get my seasons right. Our spring, which is America's fall, because of daylight savings time switches where content comes out at 12:30 for us in the morning, which is more manageable than 2:30.
Absolutely.
I can stay up till 12:30, see the content, still go to bed at 1, still wake up at 5. Compared to 2:30, going to sleep at 3, waking up at 5:30 and doing all that. So definitely time, and I wish it could be 36 hours in the day. But like, I'm not gonna complain no matter what, because like I said, I'm blessed to be in the situation and have this opportunity to even bring this type of content, joys, cries, laughter, anger, which we all get anger playing this game. For people at the end of the day. So no matter what it is, I'm just going to continue to grind and put my foot down. But now, like I said, I'm hoping, obviously I've got into a nice groove, and that's what it takes, get into a nice groove with uploading and things of that nature, where I can obviously get a little bit more sleep and things like that.
For sure. And I think, it kind of, to an outsider who's not part of the Twitch community or part of the Madden community, it does kind of present itself as a bit of an obsession. Like you said, like you're working on the video first, then you're going and doing your duties that you have as a father, then you're taking every spare second that you get of your time. Even when you're probably watching TV or having a little bit of downtime, you're probably thinking in the back of your head, there's ideas coming up, there's DMs coming in that you want to respond to. Like it really does. For me, if I'm at work, like there's some days where French teacher, we have French, that's one of the time I get to step out of the room, we get 30 minutes of French class, and 50% of the time the teacher's not there. You know, there's some days where I'm like, okay, I'll have a little bit of downtime here and there. It all gets taken away. I got my short, 40-minute lunch break. I'm like trying to do stuff on Madden on my phone, edit stuff in Google Slides, like do whatever. You have to kind of become a bit of a fanatic about it to kind of, be a success in this game. And but at the same time, if you are a fanatic, you're enjoying the process of it too. Like I do enjoy in the summer, I really haven't had time to dig into YouTube as much as I wanted with the full length content during the year, because I've wanted to be consistent with my stream, and I enjoy the streaming process. It's a nice way to kind of decompress from the 9 to 5, get a totally different experience. But I did enjoy learning how to edit. Like I think even from a standpoint, even for the people who might not achieve huge levels of success, I think learning how to do all this stuff, learning how to make a YouTube video, learning how to crop videos, edit, learning how to work social media, like it's for somebody like me who was not the most tech savvy person, like I've probably learned more in the 3 years I've been on Twitch than I've learned in university altogether, I'd say, to be honest. It's a great learning curve, and maybe I'm biased because I'm a teacher. I think that we're all kind of lifelong. If you're not learning anymore, if you're stagnant, if you're not growing as a person, I think that's kind of an L. I think we all have so much more we can learn. Time. And you'll probably look, and the sign of a good content creator, you'll probably look at your YouTube videos now, 3 years from now, and you'll be like, what the hell was I doing back then? This is crap. But at the same time, it serves a purpose. You leave all that stuff up there. The idea that you're getting better each video that you make, or getting better each Madden season. I think that's an inspirational thing. That's one thing that stuck with me when I had Kenny Games on here. I don't know if you know Kenny from YouTube. He's been kind of going crazy.
Crazy.
He's going crazy, man. And I don't know truth. I might have to get you on this Bible here. I'm sure Joe's put you onto it. Have you seen this book? Let me. Have you seen this book, The YouTube Formula? Has Joe talked to you about this?
No, let me see. The
YouTube Formula by Daryl Eves.
No, I haven't seen it.
I'm going to send you. Okay, I'm going to give you a link to this thing. This is the book that Kenny read, and the guys thinking about YouTube and content creation kind of just led to a paradigm shift in his head. And I see these tweets from Kenny, and again, he's not super big on Twitter. Like he might have a bajillion people on YouTube watching stuff, but it's funny how different platforms grow at different rates. But that one thing that stuck out is that every video he makes, he wants it to be the best video he's ever made, and that's that drive is something that I think serves a lot of content creators well.
I think a tweet I seen Kenny put out was quality over quantity, and I think he put out like 1/4 or like a crazy amount less videos than he did last year, but his numbers in terms of subs, in terms of views, all that was up. I mean, it was crazy. I think he did it was like 50 videos compared to like 250, something like that. But the 50 videos outperformed the 250 because he put so much more time in the quality of those specific 50 videos compared to the 250 just to record.
Absolutely, man. It's one thing you kind of like educate yourself about. Like, there's definitely a lot of value to be had with daily uploads and daily posts on something like TikTok, where you get that algorithm boost. But then there's also something to be said for taking time and really doing your best work and getting it out there. And he is doing it full time. I just think, I remember he was saying he was ready to give up YouTube a year ago, and now look where he's at. Like, so it just goes to show, if you find that winning formula, you never know. Like, don't give up on it. He still learned a bunch of valuable skills with all the videos that would have been failures in his vision, man. And I'm trying to kind of my goal for 2023 is trying to work smarter, not harder, because I feel like I've worked really, really hard this year, but with a couple little tweaks, that there's ways that you can kind of divide your energy that might be more effective to reaching those goals, and I think you've kind of found a good mix of both. It seems like you've got those goals, you found the what's working for you, and you got to ride the momentum while you're hot. You got to ride that momentum.
Absolutely. You have to, because as a snap of a finger, it all be taken away.
Yeah, absolutely. But we talked a little bit about the content creation journey, and I'm going to drop your links again in the chat here. So hopefully everybody, if you haven't followed Truth already, I'd love you to give him a follow on all platforms, because he is active on all of them. I know, because he's all over my recommended on every single platform. But I wanted to talk to you about one kind of last topic here, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about hip hop music, because the first time that I ever got rated into your channel, I don't even remember who it was. Like, I know Joe's rated into you a bunch of times, but there was one where I came in and you were probably mid freestyle when the raid happened, and I was like, oh man, okay, he's still going. You were freestyling for like 3 minutes straight. It was insane. And the beats you were picking too, I was like, these are formative beats from like the time when I was in high school. It's taking me back in the day to, you know, when I kind of fell in love with rap music. Like, what is your relationship with music? Is it important to you, like, as a person? Is that something you've always had a passion for growing up?
Yeah, man. I mean, music, I think it's important for everyone to a certain degree, but music, honestly, for me, was my first love. My dad, you know, rest in peace, and my mom, rest in peace. Both were singers. And obviously, I have that capability. No, I'm not singing on Twitch. It's not happening.
I won't ask you to. Don't worry.
But yeah, it's just something that's always been great for me. But I'm an old soul, so I actually like old singers like Patti LaBelle, Temptations, and all those people. And then obviously that carried on being in Kansas City, obviously in the, you know, inner city, and, you know, let's be honest, music comes to you just naturally. So something for me that I always knew that I had a passion for. I didn't know I had the ability to do the stuff I'm able to do now. Till probably I was like 14 or 15. And like, it's one of those things you just, people always ask me. I had someone ask me the other day. It's like, so when you rap, do you write it down? I'm like, nah. Most of the time, I can write it down. And I actually rapped in my, you know, my college days. So I was like, but most of the time, it's off the top of my head. People just give me a topic, and based off my knowledge and what I know about it, I go off on that specific topic. And it's like, oh, that's incredible. And then they give me, and obviously you've been in streams where I'm getting rated, and people give me topics and stuff, and I just freestyle. So, and like that ability to be creative, on top of the ability to relate, and because it's one thing to rap, right, but it's one thing to make it rap and make it make sense. I can rap a bunch of nonsense, right, and you can just sit there bob my head like, this dude's actually saying a bunch of nothing. Like, what is he saying? We've all heard those rappers, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm no longer a rapper anymore. I'm an entertainer. Those rappers, I'm not trying to pursue a rap career or anything. I freestyle for the fun of it. I have the ability, and obviously I've done them on TikTok, like the little duets and stuff of that nature. But like for me, I do it for entertainment. I'm no longer a rapper. I'm not 21, 22 chasing a rap game. I'm a father. I have a job, and I'm a content creator. And obviously, I like to bring content in different formats, right? But yeah, man, music has always been a huge, huge passion of mine. Just overall, and like I said, the ability to freestyle is just something that I don't know where it came from, but I'm glad I have it because it's a unique ability. Not a lot of people have to be able to just go off the top and rap about any topic at any time.
Yeah, no, it's wild, and the amount of quick thinking that it takes too, and just like the connections that your brain can make in a short amount of time. Not just to have it rhyme, but again, like you said, to have it make sense, or to have it be in the context of what you're talking about in the stream, or something was brought up earlier. Like it's incredible, and I've always kind of you know, admired that. You know, freestyling is crazy. Like, you know, you can go on YouTube and you can find these ciphers, and it's, you know, some people have a gift for it and some people don't. You clearly got that gift.
Freestyle.
Yeah, not like the 5 Fingers of Death where they have 5 verses pre-written and they go on there with Sway and do that. You know, a lot of like that's the thing. Like I know, for example, like in my opinion, I don't know a whole lot of rap music from 2010 onwards. I kind of got stuck in my ways of listening to like my mid 90s to 2010 stuff, and I cycle that playlist to death, and I love it. And you know, because that's when I bought CDs. Like when I was in high school, I bought CDs. I have a huge collection over here, and those are my classics, because back in the day I would listen to them. I would sit down and I'd listen to them from the beginning to the end. Now it's not really the same way. They're like, you know, I'll do it when a new Drake album comes out. I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna listen to the whole thing all the way through one time, but I might never listen to it in order, you know. But for Jay-Z, for artists like Nas, I would go in, and that's an experience. I'm sitting down for an hour and 15 minutes, and I'm listening to the whole story. That's something that I kind of miss with today's rap music, and again, it's probably ignorance, because I'm sure there's great artists out there that I just haven't, you know, given myself a chance to be exposed to. But who were some of your like influences? Like when you were growing up, like what type of rap music did you listen to? Was it very central to your area, like being kind of, you know, in the South, or was it more like, who are the people you listen to the most?
Well, Tupac was one, because my pop's a huge Tupac fan, Tupac fan. So love me some Tupac, love Biggie. Growing up, obviously Nas, Jay-Z, that was influential in terms of the hip hop culture. But I mean, you know, Radio Raheem, go to some of the underground guys, you know, the KRS Ones, Run DMC, you know, we can talk about, you know, I even like, and people may not know these kids, I like Criss Cross. You know, kids dressing backwards, you know, make your, you know what I mean? So, And then like some of the newer guys, I like J. Cole, I like Kendrick, and I think I'm at the same mindset of you. I like the storytelling ability of hip hop. I don't like you to just come there and no disrespect to the guys, because that's what it is.
That's music for the club. Like in the club, you'll be going crazy to it, but
And I understand that. I was young. I was in the club. I used to go crazy, you know, and all this stuff. But like when I'm talking about hip hop, I want to listen to get in my zone. Tell me some stories. Give me some substance. You know, give me something behind it, so I can. When I'm nodding my head, I'm actually like feeling. It's not only in my head, but I'm feeling it in my soul and stuff I can relate to. So some of the guys look, the Jay-Z, Nas, Tupac. I love Cole, love Kendrick, and obviously to each their own in terms of who loves who. But yeah, those are some of the guys I'm thinking. Eminem. I'm always going to shout out Eminem. Loved all those guys. Eminem, Proof. You talking about Royce the 5'9", Crooked. Man, I can go
Detroit's got a good little rap scene over there. Yeah,
I can go on about artists from different, you know, walks of life and things of that nature. But the type of artist, I love the storytelling aspect about hip hop. At the end of the day,
for sure. Like it's funny because there was, you know, in the early 2000s, there was kind of, you know, the Lil Jon and the East Side Boys, the crunk music came where the lyrics were kind of at the background. They weren't, you know, what people were there for. They were there for the beat drops and for the hook and for the, you know, for the moments in a song that got people, you know, getting pumped up and whatnot. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like, you know, when you look at a good lyricist, it's like it really is poetry. You know, like I look at like Nas's first album, Illmatic, and you know, normally I found with a lot of rappers, the first album is like their entire life experience up to that point. You know, at Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt, like all the rappers say their best album is their first one because they have an entire life of experiences to put into it, and it gets harder the longer you're in the game to stay original. Like, because really, you know, once you get out of your situation and you're living a lavish lifestyle, you know, your experiences are kind of not changing as much as they were. But you know, so you give me a whole bunch of great artists. One person I always loved, Andre 3000 from Outkast. I find he was a great, like, he's so off the wall, and his wardrobe would kind of, you know, wearing, you know, the turbans and wearing random fashion stuff. Like, he would be kind of looked at as a bit of an outsider almost in hip hop. And I'm sure in Atlanta people were looking at him like, what is this guy doing over here? He's got something different going on. But his storytelling is just incredible. And you know, I can tell, like, there's also the ghostwriters out there too. There's some artists that I'm convinced there's somebody behind them, you know, right. Like Drake, I know, has been accused of that many times. That he's just had a team of ghostwriters, and I'll never listen to a Drake freestyle and be like, yeah, that's off the top. That's no way.
Speaking of Drake, I like mixtape Drake more than I like Young Money album Drake. If people know Drake before, I would say before Best I Ever Had. Yeah. Pre-Drake, before that, dude was incredible. Like, I had a serious, in fact, if we're talking about CD Is Mine, Ransom, Replace, like, he was going crazy in terms of mixtape Drake is one of the best artists I have ever heard in my life. Then obviously he became what I like to call Aubrey Graham, because he's no longer Drake, and Soft and all that. And obviously he's, like you said, he's catering to what the audience is. His first mixtape, where it was just DRAKE, you know, obviously producing himself and bringing himself to the scene, those are the best. And obviously, look, I can't forget about, and I'm sorry, and I'm actually silly, I can't forget about Wayne. I cannot. Wayne, early 2000 to 2000 and late early 2010, Wayne was, he had some of the greatest runs, and I'm talking, when I say greatest run, is about everything that man touched was a hit. When you're talking about Go DJ, Fireman, don't even get me started on all the Carter. I can listen to every single one of those, you know, on repeat. But then when you talk about mixtape Wayne, where there's Green Ranger, you know, and things of that nature, like that man, early 2000s, probably late 2000s, Block is Hot, 504 Boys Wayne, until, you know, 2010, 2013. That Wayne, honestly, one of the greatest runs of hip hop I've ever seen. Which
is funny because, you know, I remember when, you know, I would listen to, you know, Juvenile back in the day and like the Hot Boys and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I like their music, but like they're not like rewriting the book lyrically. You know, it was party music. It was really good, and but I remember thinking, you know, Lil Wayne's kind of the closest thing to like a child star that we have in the rap game. He started out really young, like probably, you know, 15, 16 years old doing those records. And a lot of the guys who started, look at Lil Bow Wow. We don't see Lil Bow Wow putting out, you know, an album 20 years later. You know, his time came and went, but Wayne evolved. And I think Fireman was the first song that I heard from Wayne where I was like, oh my God, okay, he can actually rap. And that, you know, and then he just exploded from there too. So much love to Lil Wayne for sure. You know, going back to Drake for a second, the one thing I would say, I do think he's an incredibly intelligent person, and like you said, he gives the people what they want to the point where he has 4 or 5 different flows where he can completely change his flow, and I think that is a talent. Like he's got his when he's going to London, England, and he's doing a freestyle on the air. It's in the London accent. You know, when he's got his Jamaican accent, he's got his Toronto accent. And you know, every time I listen to a Drake song, it's very derivative of other artists. Like he has a lot of influences. You can tell he does love rap music, because I remember on his new album I was listening, I was like, oh my god, that's a T.I. line that he's working in there. Like he takes from other artists, but at the same time, you know, hip hop with sampling and stuff like that, it is a lot about taking from other artists and making it your own. And you know, I think there is room for that in the creative space for sure.
And I think this is important with Drake, just quickly. I think people got to realize, with Drake, I will never say Drake's a top 5 rapper, because when I say rapper, I'm talking about lyricism. That's when I consider rapper. But he is a top 5 entertainer of all time, and that cannot be denied. That cannot be denied in terms of his entertainment value and his ability, like you said, to grasp an audience, whether it's in London, whether it's wherever it's at. He has that ability to grasp an audience almost like nobody I've ever seen.
And you know, it's funny, like I don't know if you have Amazon Prime. I've got my Prime sub all set up and whatnot, but you know, Amazon did I think it was from the LA Coliseum. They did a show with Drake and Kanye where they were at the LA Coliseum this year, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch it. These are 2 great artists. Well, what it made me realize though was that Kanye's catalog is so deep. He did probably like 20 plus songs, and they were all, I was like, man, he didn't even perform anywhere near all of his hits. Like, you know, for all that's going on with Kanye from a mental perspective right now, and he seems to be kind of in a weird spot. Like it's crazy the amount of good music that he's put out over the course of his career. It's and you know, it's funny too, because I do remember I used to always read The Source and Double XL magazine. I would go out. I remember like every month I would go out and get the new ones. I'd be checking the store, when's the new one coming out. And I remember reading an old thing where it used to be Kane West. They didn't even have the Y in his name. And he mentioned it, I think, in his first album, and this was when he was just a producer for Rockefeller. They had him with like, who are those other guys? They did a lot of stuff for Cameron. I can't even think of their name now. The other production team, the Heat Makers, I think, and it had like you know, all this stable of producers. But Kanye wasn't even looked at as a rapper. You know, the Netflix documentary talks about that. He always viewed himself as a rapper first, producer second. But I mean, to be that gifted on both ends of it is kind of incredible. So. You know, shout out to Kanye West too. I probably have more songs from him on my playlist than anybody else. Even though I wouldn't consider him on my Mount Rushmore of rappers necessarily. He's probably up there. He's a very good rapper, but that's another thing. I've asked this question a few more times to other people that come on the show. Whether it's on, I think I've done it on the Northern, where I've had like a panel of like 4 guys.
I expected this.
If you had to, and you were also in South Dakota. I didn't realize that. Is that where Mount Rushmore is in South Dakota?
That's where Mount Rushmore is.
That's crazy. I also heard something in the news. I heard that South Dakota was like the only state to never be visited by a sitting president or something. Like it was the last state to ever get visited. And I don't know if it was in the last few years that's been
crazy
changed.
Because Mount Rushmore is there with the the 4 influential.
That's wild. I actually met some people from South Dakota when I went to a Vikings game. A lot of people will come up and drive right through North Dakota to the Vikings games.
South Dakota, it's basically Minnesota Vikings Central, because that's the close. It's either Minnesota or Denver, because they're both about 10 hours away, whether you're going east or west. That's what it mostly is, Vikings and Broncos fans in South Dakota.
But yeah, this is the one I gave you a little bit of warning about this one. If you had to make a Mount Rushmore of your top 4. We could separate it if you want. We could do your top 4 rappers just in general, or you could do your top 4 lyricists, whatever you want to touch on. Because like you said, top 4 rappers, top 4 lyricists might not necessarily be the same thing to you.
That's tough.
I know it's tough. I rewrite mine every once in a while.
I can rewrite it daily. All right, I'll give you. So if we're talking about top 5 lyricists, someone who's underrated in the game, and I always felt was underrated, is Jadakiss. Love me some Kiss.
Yes.
Love some Jadakiss. I think Wayne's up there. Wayne has to be up there. You want to talk about catalogs? I don't think anyone in the history of the rap game can go catalog for catalog with Wayne. I don't think there's one person who can go catalog for catalog with Wayne. And then, see, if we're talking about lyricists, it's tough, man. Yeah. It is super tough. Yeah. Because I think Cole and
Kendrick
be up there when we're talking about lyrics, not rappers. Because with rapper, when I think of a rapper, you got to be an entertainer, you got to be a lyricist, you got to have that total package, right? If we're talking about lyricists, those would probably be, and I'm pretty sure there's guys that I'm missing. King Los is really good. I don't know if you know who King Los is.
Never heard of him. No, I gotta check him out.
King Los is talking about, he's actually a freestyle rapper coach that coaches a lot of people. Like, if you want to talk about pure lyricism, King Los is up there too. But yeah, those would probably, if I had to go lyricism, I had to go Wayne, Kiss, maybe Cole, and Kendrick. Then if we're talking about rappers, right? I gotta throw Jay-Z up there because that's one person's catalog I think that can compete with Wayne's. I still think Wayne may have more, but I think Jay-Z's catalog can compete with Wayne's. And if someone said they like Jay-Z's catalog better, I won't be mad at them, right? Because that's a preference at that point in time, right? But I think Jay-Z is up there if we're talking about rappers. I know a lot of people like to put Biggie and Pac up there, but I didn't get enough of them. I just didn't get enough of them.
It's tragic, really.
I didn't get enough of them. It's the same thing when we're talking about football. And someone mentioned Sean Taylor as one of the greatest safeties. I didn't get enough of him. You know what I mean? And I feel cheated and deprived that we didn't get enough of Pac and Biggie. They were on the court in a trajectory like no other rappers in history in terms of a beat, what they were producing. But I just didn't give enough of them. I still would you can throw Biggie and Pac in there. I would put them in there as Slash, because I believe they really revived the rap game in the early 90s. They took it to a place that if they weren't there, I don't think the game would be what it is today, because they revitalized it, because it was really dead, especially after NWA and all those guys. It kind of, when they broke up, it kind of teetered and tottered, but then Pac and Biggie took it to a level that we didn't expect, right? So Jay-Z, Pac, Biggie, man, this is tough. This is
not easy.
It's tough. It's tough. Like, I can't. Like I said, I even think Wayne can be up there for best rappers because he's an entertainer too. So I'm gonna go with those four. Wayne,
I respect
Biggie, it. Jay-Z, and that's the four I'm gonna go to. If someone disagrees with me, I can understand it. But that's what I'm gonna go to.
That's the beauty of it. It's how subjective music is. Like, you can go through a room of, you'll have some names that pop up on every list, but it's never going to be the same combination. It's, and like you said, you could probably rewrite that list every day depending on what you're listening to at the time and what you're feeling at the time.
Absolutely.
But it's it's funny, like you mentioned, one thing for me, I think Tupac definitely makes my Mount Rushmore, because even though, like you said, like he was taken from us during his prime, where he had a lot of great years of creativity ahead. Like, who knows, he'd probably still be working on projects today at some point, in some way, shape, or form. And I would have been so interested to see how he evolved, because he started out like Digital Underground, like completely different style, and I love that, like the Oakland Bay Area style. And then he's from New York originally too, which a lot of people don't. Like there was songs like Brenda's Got a Baby and stuff that were like really like East Coast kind of vibe, and I love that too. I loved every different version of him. And then obviously the Death Row Records and everything that came with that was that iconic kind of California style that was like took the game like by surprise, by storm, absolutely. But but the thing about him, I always remember hearing that he would go into it and he'd record like 5-6 songs in a day, whereas now you get people going to record a song and they'll take a week to record one song and get the verses on it and rework and remaster it, whereas he was out there putting out, like, that's why we have so many posthumous albums from Tupac, and they're all good. I'm like, man, he had so many good songs that he never even got a chance to see how they were received from the public, whereas Biggie only really got a chance to put out 2 albums, and even though it was a double album, he only got a chance to put out 2. So
because you got to remember, back in those days, rap was more about storytelling. That's why Tupac would go into a studio and record 4 or 5 songs. Because he wasn't. Tupac and Biggie, they weren't the greatest lyricists in the world, and obviously that's because of the opportunity that they had at that moment. Rap at that time about storytelling, because NWA was about storytelling. That's what they did, right? So that's why Pac was able to go in and just clunk out 4 or 5 songs, because he would just talk about stuff coming from the heart. Whereas nowadays everyone wants to perfect it, get the right simile, get the right metaphor. Oh, this punch hitting, is this hitting here? Where that's where the rap game is kind of involved too. But I think that's what makes Biggie and Pac so special, is that their music, you can literally, I don't think there's 2 artists in the history of the game that you can relate to music more than anything. Like, still to this day, I can't listen to Dear Mama Tupac without bursting. For me, that hits home for me. Obviously, losing my mom.
Of course.
But recite the song from beginning to end, but it's still,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's powerful, man.
I don't think there's two artists that, like, from a storytelling and impact perspective, and that's why I think a lot of people do have them up on there in their Mount Rushmore and top, 3 or 4 because of that type of impact they had, not only on the game but the people who listened to.
For sure, and like Biggie, I think probably has one of the best flows of all time too, and that's a whole other category too. Like, I love Jay-Z's flow personally. It's funny. I listened to, I think it was on the Stretch and Bobbito show in New York. That was like kind of like the prototypical like hip hop show that was on like 3 a.m. and everybody would record the shows and they'd have all these people come on and do freestyles like Busta Rhymes. All these artists before they were signed, kind of got their big break on there. And there's this one with there's a freestyle. It's probably like 11 minutes long, and it's with Jay-Z, who's just coming from like a party like somewhere in Manhattan, and then it's with Big L. Big L's on it as well. And Big L is somebody who, again, taken way too soon, but like I listened to his talent. Big L could have been the biggest rapper in the game. Like, I listened to like Put It On, and I'm like, oh my god, this song is, and his lyrics were incredible. Incredible. So again, there's so much talent, and even now, like, you see a lot of rappers. Like, I'm noticing more. Like, there was kind of the mid '90s where there was a lot of that extracurricular stuff that got dangerous for people, and you saw people taken too soon. And then there was kind of that top 40, mainstream success where rap is like all over the radio waves and everybody's getting rich. And then now I'm noticing too, it's like a lot of rappers, young rappers, dying again. But maybe it's like opioids, or it's a different way that it's going. And it's unfortunate that things are still at that point where, it's just sad to see like people like Juice WRLD, who I never really got accustomed to. Like, I don't really know him well, but like everything I've heard from him, I've liked, and I would have loved to have seen, what he could have become. But 20 years old, 21 years old, like that's way too young to go. And absolutely. I think both Biggie and Tupac were probably like 26. Like, these guys are still kids. But man, I could talk hip hop all day. Honestly, like, that's the thing about like sometimes when it comes to content creation, I'm like, man, I could do a sports show. I did the Northern. I like doing these profiles around the Gjallarhorn. Sometimes I'm like, I would love to do just music reaction videos on YouTube. Putting yourself out there. There's so many different ways to create content and find your niche. And but I knew when I had you on here, I had to talk hip hop for at least a good chunk of the time, because
talk a little bit,
yeah, man, and it's been an absolute pleasure. But the last thing that I kind of want to talk to you, I didn't realize we've been on here for like an hour and a half. You're a busy man. You're going to stream later on tonight. But the last thing I want to talk to you is, do you have any advice for somebody who's, maybe just getting into the streaming game, or watching the stream tonight, or watching this on YouTube the next day, and is thinking about potentially becoming a content creator themselves? What advice you'd give to somebody trying to get into this game and make a success of it, or have a good experience from it in general?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because a lot of people will come in. I'm sure you get this. People come into the stream. Oh, can you shout me out? Can you do this? And I tell them no. Yeah. Right? And they want to understand why I'm telling them no. I'm not saying no, I won't help you. But what you're asking me is for a handout. Yeah. I'm not going to give you a handout, because no one learns anything from a handout. That's not how people learn, right? If you want to know my story and you want to know how I got this, I can give you my the secret sauce or whatever it may be, right? But I'm not going to give you a handout, because I know for a fact if someone gives you a handout, that's going to become the norm. And then you're going to expect a handout from every single person, and you're not going to work for it. So like, that's my biggest thing. I tell people all the time, bro, I'm 30, almost 34. If I can do it, why can't you? Yeah. Well, give me your excuse.
Absolutely.
And when I put it in a layman's term like that, people are like, oh, well, I didn't think about that. It's just because you don't want it bad enough. That's what it boils down to. Like, the stuff, it's hard, but it's simple at the same time. Put yourself out there. One thing I would tell people, don't be afraid to fail. Every single success story in the history, you want to talk about Bill Gates, all these billionaires, Tesla, Elon Musk, they failed before they succeeded. Yep. You see the riches that they have now, but what you don't see is the failures that they had to get to those riches. People see me now with, like you said, 250, 100K views on TikTok. You see that, but what you didn't see is me having 2 or 3 people in the stream. Yep. Me having 10 views on my YouTube. Me having 100 views on it. You didn't see that. I had to endure that. So what makes it think that you don't have to endure that to try to get success? And it's a problem with this generation. Yeah. Everyone wants instant gratification, right? They want it to snap their fingers for it to happen. They see, Mr. Beast and all these guys on YouTube, but they don't see the struggles Mr. Beast went through.
Oh, yeah.
I've watched Mr. Beast since his beginning in YouTube. The dude, he almost wanted to quit. You said that earlier when you're talking about they wanted to quit. Yeah. Mr. Beast had a YouTube video saying he was done. He literally had a video saying he was done. So all I can tell the people is keep pushing. Your breakthrough's gonna come. And like I said, I won't give anyone a handout, but I'm gonna help you. I tell people all the time, bro, hit my DMs. They're open now. People gotta realize I'm in a different country, and I've had many people hit me up when it's like 2 a.m. my time, and then I wake up at 7. I got like 6 messages. I'm like, bro, I was asleep. Like, you gotta give me a chance to respond.
For sure.
But that's what I'll say. Keep working, man. If someone tells you no, don't take it. You don't have to take that as an answer. You don't have to take that as law either. It could be just a no right now, but you got to just keep working, head down, make it happen. No one else is going to make it happen besides you. Because I tell people all the time, why would someone else make it happen for you before you make it happen for yourself? And I'll just use my example. The reason why Geezy gave me an invite to Vertex, because he said, you've been grinding. I've been seeing you put in work. You think I get an invite to Vertex if I was in Murphy D's stream, Go Geezy stream, Luke stream? Hey guys, asking for handout.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't. You guys were like, oh well, let's be honest, that's a mooch. But because I was independently grinding, making things happen, I got the attention of others. Like, oh, what is this truth about? And look, not everyone's gonna have my ability to freestyle and be charismatic. Not to toot my own horn, but I thrive, and that's what I try to do in my stream, right? But you have to find your niche. But more importantly, you have to work. And that's one thing about this generation that I despise is they really don't want to work. I will say that a lot about our generation. We don't mind working for something we feel like there's a means to the end.
Absolutely.
Whereas this generation, they basically want to say, truth, can you give me this? If you go to my TikToks, can you give me a card? Can you give me this? How do I make, do this? I can give you, how's the saying going?
You can lead the horse to water one? Is that what you're thinking of? Yeah.
You can teach a man to fit, you can fish for a man.
Or you can teach a man to fish. Yeah. You're giving people help by teaching them how to provide for themselves. You don't want to give handouts to everybody who asks for one, but you can teach a guy how to make a bunch of coins by reading the market and buy whatever card he wants and then some. You're right. The handout culture is crazy.
And it's so many people because they see Joe, and shout out to my boys, 115 million. I'm only not sitting on that, but I tell you all the time, I have an addiction to opening up packs. Yeah. But I know I like to open up packs, so I work the market so I can do that.
Yes.
Because people are like, oh, how do you open up packs? How do you do this? But you also have coins because I know what I'm doing. I can teach you how to do that if you want. Yeah. If you like opening up packs, come here. I'll show you how to do it. But don't ask for a car or a million coins. I'll teach you how to be like me, where you can have fun. If you don't want to be, your head beating against the wall in the game because it is frustrating. You just want to open up packs and still have a good team, a good coin stack, and be entertaining. So that's the number thing I would say. Don't be afraid to work and don't be afraid to fail because every success story you have to fail. This is actually, I don't think people realize this. It's actually, I believe it's a law. You have to fail before you succeed. Yeah. No one in the history of humanity has ever straight succeeded without failing. We hear about their success stories. We rarely hear about their failures. The good ones will tell you about their failures before they tell you about their success stories. And that's what I would say.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you sharing that wisdom, and I hope that kind of lands on the ears that it needs to land on. And put in the work, do it the right way, be true to yourself, and don't be looking for handouts. It's valuable advice, and it's something that'll serve people well. And it's a huge space that we share. The Madden community is not huge; it's a fairly small directory, but as far as YouTube. Twitch, there's room for everybody to grow. You don't need to be in constant competition. You need to find out what you do well and grind for it. And you've been doing that work, and the success you've had has been incredible to watch, man. I'm a fan. I will continue to be a fan, and it's been a privilege to sit down with you and get to know you a little bit more, man. I feel like I really got to learn a lot about you in this last hour and a half, and hopefully we get a chance to sit down, whether it's on some other Vertex podcast in the future or collaborate on some other things. But much love for coming through, man. The real truth you dig. Appreciate you so much, man, for this. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Murph. Anytime. I know I owe you a freestyle, so I'll have to.
You know what? If you bust one out on your stream later on, I would consider us even here, man.
I will. If you pop into the stream later on, I will give you a freestyle on the stream.